Alright, so I'm doing CGI versus practical purely because CGI is something that is becoming more and more a thing in movies. We see it a lot more, and a lot of it isn't as good as it really should be. So there's been an evolution of effects. Starting way back, we would start with things like miniatures, where instead of actually trying to shoot a full city with like expensive cranes and stuff, you would just make a model of it and film it that way because, I mean, this makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more cost effective because you don't have to try and rent out a whole like street or something to try and film a big city. You can just build a model of it and film from there. Then we have things like stop motion, which allowed us to make fight scenes like this a reality, even though the skeletons aren't there. There's no strings, they're not puppets, they just do it frame by frame. And while that's more time consuming, scenes like this look amazing when they're actually put into film. And then we get makeup, and as we've gone on, makeup looks amazing. And this is Teen Wolf, or Werewolf in London, I think. I think it's a Werewolf in London. And this is a part of the transformation scene. And the scene took, I think, it was like 10 hours to do because they had to slowly keep putting makeup on him as they shot each part of the scene. And because of that, I mean, the transition looks amazing, and once it's finally fully done, I mean, it looks more realistic than some CGI does. And then we have animatronics. This was the best one I could find. This is my favorite one. Some of the other ones weren't as fantastic as this. This is the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. And then we get to CGI. And when CGI came out, it was kind of an alternative to some of the more expensive practical effects, purely because CGI cost a little bit less because you could just send it off to an animation company or a studio in India or something and get them to make it. And as a cheap alternative, it was helpful, but we're starting to go more and more towards using it. And the problem with that is smaller companies can't afford where we've gotten with CGI, meaning if all movies use CGI, a lot of the movies that don't have big companies behind them come out with stuff like this, where you can clearly see that that is not there at all. Now, is this the right scene? Oh, so what is a practical effect? A practical effect is anything that is physically in the shot when they film it of some sort. Meaning, when you see a movie like Fast and Furious, what they're doing for a lot of the driving scenes is real. They're not CGIing that. That's a semi-practical effect. Stop motion, again, is a big one. Things like that. I can't remember what movie that's from, but that was there. They made a giant sculpture to film, and then they shot steam out of it, so it looked like the head was about to explode. Wow. I mean, that's practical right there. They just used body doubles and stuff like that. And the thing I like about practical effects is the fact that even if they aren't real, they kind of look real, and they look more real than CGI does. Especially when you compare early CGI and some of the not so good CGI, like this. Everybody's favorite. Now, Star Wars is a great series. This is one of the only problems with that series, and it's because it's Jar Jar. And the thing about things or movies that use a lot of CGI to create alien creatures is that you can tell the actors aren't interacting with the person or what's supposed to be there. They're interacting with nothing. And in some ways, you can tell what's going on. Like, you know they're not interacting, like, they're just acting and pretending it's there. It's not physically there. And when they interact with Jar Jar, it doesn't look right. It looks very wrong. Another example of horrible CGI would be this movie, Spy Kids 3. A movie that has wonderful backgrounds and wonderful CGI in it that doesn't look good at all. And even back then it was bad. We were just all too young to realize that it was bad because I really liked the movie, and then I watched it again and realized I was wrong. Now, comparing practical effects to CGI, I realized that there's a movie out there that was made in 1982. This is The Thing by John Carpenter. It was a horror movie set in Antarctica.